is going to get a win over Christos Giagos on Saturday. Next up, Fernando Padilla is taking on Kyle Nelson. And this is a fight where I think Fernando Padilla is very, capable of winning this fight. Kyle Nelson, big guy, strong physically, coming out of Canada. He's really struggled in the UFC. His last 2 fights, he's looked a little bit better. Went out there, got the win over Blake Builder. I actually predicted him as an underdog, I believe, in that spot. Against Doo Ho Choi, he went to a draw. Unanimous, or excuse me, a majority draw with Doo Ho Choi, but Doo Ho Choi had been absent for a while, and I feel like the UFC was trying to do him a favor there with the Kyle Nelson fight, right? Blake Builder, guy way less experienced than Kyle Nelson, half the professional fights, and he was, if not making his UFC debut, he was making his sophomore outing in the company. That's true. So his only win in the UFC was over Shane Young, and we saw how good that guy did on Saturday. Didn't seem like he cares at all about his fighting career anymore. So shout out to him. But then you look back at the fights prior. Jai Herbert beats him via unanimous decision. Close fight. Could have went either way. Billy Quarantillo finishes him with a right cross. Guys, Billy Q, normally not a huge power guy. One punch in the 3rd round put Kyle Nelson down. Bad, bad, bad. And that was at 145. He's back at 145 here. So I don't know. I don't know about this. Matt Sales getting the win over Kyle Nelson via 3rd round submission. That's hugely alarming. The win over Polo Reyes doesn't really tell you much. The loss to to Diego Ferreira is something that you completely understand and forgive. So I just think of a guy like Kyle Nelson and I say, he does not have great cardio. He has definitely worked to improve his cardio. It's gotten much better. He's improved his physicality. He's improved his musculature. All of that is true. But he's got a guy in Padilla who's very dangerous fighter here. Kyle Nelson's 2-4-1 in the UFC. Not a great record, not a record that's setting the world on fire. Fernando Padilla, 1-0 in the UFC, knocked out Julian Erosa in his last fight, a way more experienced fighter. Won on Fury FC looking for a fight. So Dana White got a little cue into who this guy is, right? Didn't have to come through that Contender Series route. The loss to Spike Carlisle, that's fine. Spike Carlisle, guy who pushes an insane pace, guy who's got some wrestling, some grappling upside, scary guy. This guy lost to Dan Ige way back in 2017. So our guy, Fernando Padilla, he's been putting in the work. He's been fighting tough guys. He's got a win over Derek Minner from back in the day. Basically, the way to beat this guy is to push him to a decision, make it really close, make it competitive, and get the win. And I feel like for Kyle Nelson, that's somewhat possible. But I also think that it's much more likely that this guy Padilla is just a more dangerous fighter. He's got 8 wins by submission, 5 wins by knockout. Kyle Nelson in the UFC, both of his wins, I'm just double checking it. So 1 win is by decision, 1 win by knockout over Polo Reyes. He's not a proven finisher at this level. Fernando Padilla, on the other hand, I think is a proven finisher at this level. The UFC level guys that he's fought, he was able to finish. So for me, just points to the Padilla side. I think let's look at the measurables here. 5 inches of reach, 3 inches of height, and 6 years younger. So Fernando Padilla is checking all the boxes that you'd want to see. He's the younger guy with the same amount of professional experience as a guy like Kyle Nelson. So Padilla. That's what's coming up on my slot machine. I pull it and I get Padilla. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. I will revisit this and do some more tape, see if there's any due diligence that I owe Kyle Nelson here. But I just think this is a really tough fight for Kyle. And, he got the win last time out. More power to him. Hopefully it extends his UFC run, but this just seems like too much. Next up, we've got the prelim headliner. So we're switching over to that preliminary card now. I'm going to make a note to myself, prelims at 39, because I know that the timestamp homies, I'll be all over me if I don't get to it. So I appreciate you guys that give me that feedback. I will try and keep that going. In any